Martin Brundle had one target for 1994, and that was none other than the second McLaren seat. With Alain Prost being the favourite to get it, but getting blocked by his former employer Williams, Brundle had to wait for his chance and was one of the very last drivers to be announced for the upcoming season. With minimal testing behind the wheel of his new car, a 4-day test at Estoril, Brundle was about to face a challenging opening Grand Prix at Interlagos circuit, and with both McLarens experiencing throttle problems during qualifying, the Briton managed the lowly 18th place on the grid, but things would get even worse for him on lap 34 when he slowed down due to an engine failure and fell victim of a spectacular 4-car pileup for which Eddie Irvine was deemed responsible. At the Pacific Grand Prix, Brundle had a much better qualifying with 6 on the grid and drove a decent race, avoiding any drama. But while he was set up for a 3rd place finish, his Peugeot engine died just 15 laps from the end. As anyone can understand, he was rather dejected with that lost podium, and his first finish of the season in 8th at the Black Weekend in Imola provided no joy. Next up was the Monaco Grand Prix, where Brundle would have his best race of the season. By avoiding any mistakes and capitalizing on others' misfortunes, he would finish on the podium and in 2nd place. In Spain, he was way off the pace of the leaders, but once again avoided mistakes, and through the problems that his teammate Häkkinen and JJ Leto faced, he found himself in 3rd position. But with just 5 laps to go, any dreams for a consecutive podium were gone when his clutch exploded. Next up on the calendar was the Canadian Grand Prix, and with the Peugeot engine lacking in power, things would be difficult. Brundle qualified only 12th, but he was comfortably fastest on Sunday's warm-up, feeling rather confident for the race. A race that would only last 3 laps for him after he stopped on the start-finish straight, this time with electrical issues. Peugeot brought new engines for their home Grand Prix at Manicourt, but the McLarens only qualified in 9th and 12th, with Häkkinen again leading Brundle. On race day, Martin had a good start, climbing up to 8th, and settled for a points finish before another blown engine took him out of the running, a fate that his teammate would also experience 20 laps later. And that fragility of the French engine would strike again at the British Grand Prix. This time the Peugeot V10 blew up right at the start of the race as the lights went green, and at the high-speed German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, a few laps from halfway distance. It would be his 5th engine-related retirement in 9 races. In Hungary, Brundle would lead the McLaren team as Häkkinen served a 1-race ban, with Martin out-qualifying Philippe Alliot and running in an excellent 3rd place until the last lap when his car's electrics failed, costing him yet another podium. The weekend at Belgium started with an altercation against Alesi. The Frenchman deemed he was blocked by Brundle during qualifying, who was once again behind Häkkinen, and then at the race spun off for his first driver mistake-related retirement. The next 2 races would produce 3 points, with a 5th in Monza and a 6th place finish in Estoril, while Brundle would keep trailing Häkkinen in both qualifying and the races. With 3 Grand Prix remaining for the end of the season, the F1 circus visited Jerez for the European round, and the Peugeot engine decided, once again, to blow up at the back of Brundle's McLaren on the 8th lap of the race. In Japan, Martin had his best qualifying of the year against Häkkinen, being less than a 10th behind, but under very wet and very difficult conditions during the race, he lost control of his McLaren, spun off and retired on lap 13. The last race of the season at the streets of Adelaide would yield the 2nd podium finish for 1994, but at 15-0 battle against Häkkinen in qualifying, and also being slower in the races too, would end a difficult and rather frustrating partnership with McLaren-Peugeot.